Welcome to the history of Dagestan, a land shaped by the crossroads of empires, cultures, and peoples. Nestled in the North Caucasus, this region's history is as rugged as its mountainous terrain. For millennia, Dagestan has been home to a mosaic of ethnic groups including Avars, Lezgians, Kumeks, Darjans, and many others, each having its own language, traditions, and identity, contributing to Dagestan's rich, very rich, cultural diversity. From ancient civilizations to modern-day challenges, the story of Dagestan is one of survival, resilience, and adaptation. Dagestan's history stretches back thousands of years, with its earliest inhabitants including Scythians and Sarmatians. The region was part of the ancient Kingdom of Caucasian Albania, which played a key role in regional trade and politics. Over time, Dagestan fell under the influence of larger empires such as the Persian Empire. With the arrival of Islam in the 7th century, the region became a frontier of the Islamic world, blending local traditions with new religious and cultural practices that are still practiced to this very day. Let's talk a little bit about the Scythians and Sarmatians. So like I said before, the early history of Dagestan is deeply intertwined with the presence of Scythians and Sarmatians, two nomadic peoples who dominated Dagestan. The Scythians, known for their prowess in horseback warfare, were a powerful force across the Eurasian steppe from around the 9th century BCE. The Scythians were more than just fearsome warriors, they were also integral players in the ancient trade networks that spanned Eurasia. Their strategic location on the vast steppes positioned them as intermediaries between diverse civilizations, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. The Scythians controlled key trade routes including the Silk Road, which connected the Mediterranean world, Persia, Central Asia, and China. Through these trade routes, they exchanged horses, furs, grain, and other livestock for luxury items like Greek pottery, Persian textiles, and Chinese silk. This role as traders not only boosted their wealth and power, but also allowed for a rich cultural exchange, influencing the development of the societies they interacted with, including those in Dagestan. One of the most remarkable aspects of Scythian culture was their metalworking, which was highly advanced for the time. Scythian artisans were masters of bronze and iron, crafting intricate weapons, armor, and jewelry. They are especially noted for their goldsmithing, producing stunning gold ornaments and ceremonial items. Their metalwork often depicted animals and mythological creatures in what is known as the animal style of art, which influenced many neighboring cultures, including the Sarmatians and even the Persians. This high level of craftsmanship spread through trade, influencing the metalworking traditions of various regions, including Dagestan. Their iron weapons in particular were superior to those of many of their contemporaries, giving them a huge military edge that helped them dominate vast swaths of territories. Beyond trade and metalworking, the Scythians left their mark on Dagestan through their burial practices, art, and nomadic lifestyle. Their kurgans, or burial mounds, are scattered across the region, reflecting their belief in an afterlife and their sophisticated funerary rites, which often included the burial of horses and weapons alongside the deceased. The Scythians' mastery of horseback warfare also revolutionized military strategies in the area, influencing how local tribes fought and defended their territories. The Scythians' influence was so profound that they left lasting legacies in the cultural and political structures of the peoples that they interacted with, including the Sarmatians, who succeeded them in dominance across the steppes of Dagestan. Their legacy in Dagestan can be seen in the region's continued emphasis on metalwork, horsemanship, and complex trade networks that persisted long after the Scythians themselves faded from power. Following the Scythians, the Sarmatians emerged as the dominant group in the 4th century BCE. And while culturally linked to the Scythians, the Sarmatians were distinct in their more structured society and heavy cavalry tactics. Their influence in Dagestan lasted for centuries, and it played a vital role in the region's integration into larger trade and cultural networks, connecting the North Caucasus to the Mediterranean and Central Asia. These two groups laid the foundation for Dagestan's early development, establishing key trade routes and influencing the region's mix of cultures. Now let's talk about the Kingdom of Caucasian Albania a little bit. The Kingdom of Caucasian Albania was a significant ancient kingdom in the Eastern Caucasus, located in parts of what now are Azerbaijan and southern Dagestan. Its geographical position made it a key crossroads of cultures and empires, bridging the Caspian Sea to the east and the Caucasus Mountains to the north, while being nestled between larger empires like Persia to the south and Rome to the west. Its history spans nearly a millennium, from its foundation around the 4th century BCE until its decline in the 7th century CE, when it was absorbed by the Scythian Empire and later influenced by the Arab conquests. Caucasian Albania was formed from a network of smaller tribal entities that gradually evolved into a more centralized kingdom. The Albanians themselves were likely a mix of indigenous peoples, including Caucasian, Iranian, and possibly Turkish groups who shared a common political and cultural framework despite their ethnic diversity. The kingdom had its own unique language and script, though much of what we know about them comes from external sources such as Armenian, Persian, and Byzantine writings. The kingdom's political structure was, of course, a monarchy, like many of the regions of the time, though much of its power fluctuated depending on its alliances with such larger monarchies. Its rulers often shifted between alliances such as the Persian Empire or the Roman Empire, and it depended a lot on which power offered the most advantageous position at the time. This flexibility helped the kingdom survive as a buffer state for centuries, playing a delicate diplomatic role in the region. Caucasian Albania's position on the eastern fringes of the Caucasus made it a key participant in long-distance trade, particularly via the Silk Road, which, of course, passed through its territory. The kingdom served as a crucial link between Central Asia, the Near East, and the Mediterranean world. Goods such as silk, spices, precious stones, and metals flowed through this territory, enriching the local economy. And in exchange, the Albanians exported local products like wine, textiles, and crafted goods, while acting as a sort of middleman for goods coming from further afield. The region's natural resources, particularly in Dagestan, where deposits of silver and other metals were found, also contributed significantly to the economy abroad. These resources allowed the kingdom to develop its own traditions of craftsmanship as well, and it influenced the diverse cultures that passed through the region. The kingdom's ports along the Caspian Sea further facilitated trade and linked the empire to other cultures in the region of Central Asia. Caucasian Albania was a melting pot of different religious and cultural influences. Initially, the population practiced a form of local paganism that included ancestor worship and nature deities. However, with increasing contact with Persia, Zoroastrianism began to spread within the kingdom, and later Christianity took root in the region, particularly during the 4th century CE, when Albania became one of the earliest kingdoms to adopt the faith of Christianity. This was largely due to its proximity to Armenia, which was, of course, the first Christian nation. The adoption of Christianity had significant implications for the kingdom's identity and regional influence. Albanian kings supported the building of churches and monasteries, which, of course, became centers of learning and culture in the region. These institutions helped foster a distinct Albanian identity, even as the kingdom continued to engage with larger neighboring empires. However, the religious landscape remained diverse, and pockets of Zoroastrians, pagans, and later Muslims coexisted within its borders. The influence of Caucasian Albania on Dagestan was profound both culturally and politically. Much of southern Dagestan fell under Albanian control, and the kingdom's trade routes passed through any key parts of the region. Dagestan's strategic location along the Caspian Sea and its mountainous terrain made it an important frontier for the kingdom, and the Albanians established fortified cities and trade outposts in the region of Dagestan, blending their own culture with the local mountain tribes. Culturally, Caucasian Albania introduced Christianity to parts of Dagestan, particularly in the southern lowlands where the influence was the strongest. And the kingdom also contributed to the spread of writing and literacy in the region, using its own Albanian script to record religious texts, law, and administrative records. And additionally, the kingdom's role as a conduit for trade allowed for a fusion of cultural elements from Persia, Rome, and other distinct regions to mix with local traditions, influencing Dagestan's art, architecture, and social customs. Dagestan's role as a frontier zone also meant that it served as a battleground during conflicts between Caucasian Albania and its powerful neighbors. Persian and Roman military campaigns often passed through Dagestan, and local tribes were sometimes recruited as mercenaries in these larger imperial struggles. The mountainous tribes of Dagestan, though fiercely independent, often found themselves influenced by the politics and cultural developments of Caucasian Albania. The decline of Caucasian Albania began in the 5th and 6th centuries CE as the Sasanian Empire tightened its grip on the region. The kingdom was eventually absorbed into the Persian sphere of influence, though it retained a degree of autonomy for a time. By the 7th century, the Arab conquests reshaped the political landscape of the Caucasus, and Albania gradually lost its independence, becoming part of the wider Islamic world. Islam began to spread through Dagestan and the remnants of the Albanian kingdom there as well. Despite its decline, the legacy of Caucasian Albania persisted in Dagestan through its cultural contributions. The Christian heritage left by Albanian missionaries continued to influence the region, particularly among the Lezgjans and other southern Dagestani groups, some of whom remained Christian for centuries after Albania's fall. The kingdom's influence also lived on through the trade routes and the enduring connections between the peoples of the Caucasus, Persia, and the broader Mediterranean world.